general.
Are there any paper copies of the?
I just have my own.
All right, I'll just bring it up on my phone.
Do you want to use mine?
I'll
We can share.
I'll call
You know, it'd be
FinCom
faster for
to
me
order.
to take a picture of it than try to
Just to see
bring
the
up the
agenda.
website, yeah. I did already look at the pack of things.
All right, so I'll call FinCom to order. I think it's 7:01. Call to order. So thanks, everybody. We got, I think everyone except for Jean and Andrew, I think are the only, so we have 7. All right. Cool. All right, so we'll just kind of jump right into the agenda. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't want to scare anybody. There's a lot, there's a lot on the agenda, but I think a lot of it will move quickly, and there's not a lot of items that we have to go too deep on, but it was just more to kind of an update on a lot of other things kind of going on in the last month. So first item on the agenda is reorganization. So given that, I will, so we have to reorganize for both chair and vice chair, and we'll start with chair. And so with that, I'll accept any nominations for chair.
Well, I was gonna nominate Jeannie, but she's not here.
Sorry, Jeffrey.
So when the school committee does this, they usually pass off, the chair passes off the gavel to someone else, to the superintendent usually. Is that something we do here, or we just figure that work?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at our last year's reorganization, and the chair ran it. But I know that I've seen it done that way for both the select board and for school committee, where Fidel ran it for the select board, and I think the superintendent. But I don't think that's generally our practice. But it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I'm happy to pass the gavel if I have to. But it's fine either way.
I'm sure that Sharon or I would be more than happy to run it, so it's up to you. As you said, it's totally fine.
Well, let's go ahead and I'll have either Sharon or you run it, Fidel. That's that just to make it easier.
Would you like me to do it since I'm sitting here?
Please, thank you.
Okay, so do we have any nominations for chair? No thoughts?
I will renominate Ed for chair.
I'll second that.
I accept. I accept. I think I'm just catching my stride. Yep. So I accept.
Any further discussion? Do we have to do it by roll call? 'Cause-
We do have to do by roll call because we have
So who's on, Greg?
Craig and
Jeffrey.
Jeff
and Mark.
Jeff and
Sorry, I
Mark.
called them
Jeffrey
Greg.
and Mark.
Okay, so should we start with them and then I'll go?
unless there's any other nominations.
Oh, yeah, that's probably a good question. Any other nominations? Hearing none, so we'll go for a vote for Ed Ross as chair. So I'm gonna start with you, Jeff.
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
yes.
sorry, I forgot your
Oh,
name.
Joe, yes.
Joe, Emily,
Yes.
can you just tell me your name?
Joe Carnahan.
Joe,
Two Joes. Yes, Joe McDonald.
are you a yes?
Yes. Sorry, said
And Ed.
Yes.
So it's unanimous. So now I pass it back to you.
Now I pass back to me. All right. So we'll. So thank you. I'll endeavor to make this more professional in this next one. Although what I listened to, I listened to the Killam board, and I took offense to Pat's comment that he would probably be the most informal chair that's out there. I think it's a foot
Challenge accepted.
The challenge accepted, Pat. So yes. All right. So we'll take nominations for vice chair, and I will note. I checked on this. Even though Jean is not here, we can nominate her for she could accept a nomination for any of the chair or vice chair.
I was gonna nominate Joe McDonough as vice chair. I'm very impressed with his performance in RAC. and he comes to all our FinCom meetings. I think you'd make a good vice chair.
You seem underwhelmed.
Yeah,
Okay.
He doesn't seem all that interested.
Yeah.
You don't have to accept.
No, yeah, I'm interested, yeah. So, I was just caught off guard, so.
I'll second that.
I was going to nominate Jean as vice chair.
I'll second that. We're doing great, Joe. We're very official.
Any other nominations for vice chair? All right, none appearing. We'll start with the vote for Joe McDonough as vice chair. I'll start with Jeffrey.
Can I ask a procedural question? How's that work?
So we will you.
You have to choose one, I assume.
Exactly, you have to choose, so like, yeah, so if, when we go through, so there's two nominations, Joe and Jean.
We have 7 members present, so it's not gonna be a tie.
Yeah, like, can
So you can
do I
only,
even vote, like?
You can
I
vote for yourself.
Jean?
Yeah, you can
But
vote for Jean if you want.
You can vote for yourself.
Oh, okay, no, I'm just.
however you wanna do
No,
it.
great questions, this is
Jean's
good,
not here, so.
good discussions. And so when we go through, we'll, I think the way to be able to do this, and Fidel and Sharon, correct me if I'm wrong, we go through and we vote Joe, and then everyone gives a yes or no vote for Joe, and then you move to Jean. Correct, is that, we go, instead of saying, to who do you vote for, we vote for each individual person, correct?
That's correct. And it's usually done alphabetically by last name, so Jean first.
Oh, so it'd be Jean first, okay, sorry. All right, so we'll do it, so we'll do it that way, so Jean first and then Joe. All right, so I'll start with the folks that are on Zoom. So Jeffrey, this is a vote for
Yes.
Jean. This is a vote for Jean.
Yes for Jean.
Mark?
No for Jean.
Joe Carnahan.
I have to decide. Actually, I suppose I could abstain. Actually, I'll go ahead with yes for Jean.
Mary Ann.
No.
Joe McDonough.
I guess, no.
Emily.
Yes for Jean. Only because I know her and I don't know you.
And Ed is, I will vote yes for Jean. So that is 4-3. And so then so it is 4-3. So we should just go through and vote for Joe just to finish it off.
Yes.
Wait, but then what happens if 4 of us vote for Joe as well?
Don't you get one vote? Don't you get one vote in the affirmative?
Like one, yeah, you would think, yeah.
One
Oh,
of the
okay.
two, yeah.
In the
Yeah,
real
yeah.
world, it's show of hands, but roll
Yeah.
call is.
Roll call makes it awkward, yeah.
All right, so then, well, just to, again, I wasn't expecting this as my first, thing to do as chair, to have to go through this again. I have to go through such a hard thing. But we'll go through and we'll take all the votes for Joe. So Jeffrey,
No.
Mark,
Yes.
Joe Carnahan,
Sounds like it has to be no.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Joe McDonough,
Yes.
Emily,
No.
and Ed, no. All right, so after completing both votes, Jean is vice chair.
For the record, I'm very supportive of Jean, so.
Duly noted, thank you.
I just,
I picked
Yeah,
that
no,
up.
thanks.
you know,
Appreciate
she's
it, Maria.
has
Switch
been
it up a
able to
little
be
bit.
coming, so I figured it's good to have the vices here.
Perfect, all right, well, so we're through the reorganization. All right, so now, the next one we had on the agenda was liaison assignments. And I thank you, Jackie, for including in our packet the, kind of the list of liaisons that we had in the past. I actually, I printed out a spreadsheet for myself, and I meant to send it around ahead of time, but I'm just going to use it for my purposes. The one things that the one thing I was just going to add, and maybe I'll just kind of help to list them off. There are a couple other, so let me organize myself a little bit. There's, the kind of the main ones I think that we've had, kind of multiple liaisons for: select board and school committee and RMLD. I don't think there's any, kind of limit and to that extent. I think for those main ones, we've had 2 or 3 people that have been a liaison for it. But I think for any of these, we should, have a couple. And then I get, and as I mentioned that, we both have it for both boards and committees, but then also for town, kind of departments. And so I think if folks had looked at it, there's, public services, public safety, admin, and public works and facilities. What I did on, just to give everyone, kind of the benefit of, like, within public services, what's included in public services. I know Emily already knows because Rec's part of that, but like, there's, some of the main ones that are part of that, just so you have some, kind of additional, kind of clarity. Again, a lot of the stuff within, kind of, some of these meet less frequently than others, but so just to be able to give some context. So just kind of by way of just kind of giving some, kind of a deeper thing on, kind of, and I'll kind of go department by department here as far as how they're listed. On public services, some of the other kind of sub, kind of groups under there, recreation is under public services, community development, economic development, conservation, and housing authority are the kind of the main ones that are kind of listed in there. I think those are probably the most applicable. So just to think about that, if that's, again, if you have any interest in that, from that one. Under public safety, really it's, obviously, self-explanatory from public safety perspective, but also public health, and the coalition is under there too. So just for clarity there. Under admin, the 2 main ones that kind of jumped off the page is RCTV and climate. The climate advisory is under admin. And then I kind of lumped public works and facilities together, and the main ones under public works and facilities outside of public works. Cemetery MWRA board is under there, and these are, I kind of stole these from the select board, how they've kind of organized themselves. Trails and town forest, and then the permanent building committee, they also kind of have lumped under public works. So, and then just one other thing that I wanted to mention as well. There's a couple other special, kind of committees that have either are in flight, and one of them we already actively participated in as far as the ARPA committee on RAC. But then the one other one that's just recently been formed is the Killam School Board Committee. I'd actually no.
School building project?
Yeah. School building committee.
Yeah, I'm deaf.
KSB, so it's a B.
KSB, so it's, Killam School Board, I think is maybe how it is, but yeah, so that was the only other one, and again, that was recently formed in the last 2 weeks. So I think it would be good to have a, kind of a liaison for that one as well, at least one, and for anyone that, so what I figure we would do, I can either, actually what I'll do is I'll kind of go by liaison assignment instead of going by individual, and then just folks can share their interest if they want to. Thanks, Jackie. That'll make it easier for me to be able to see Mark and Jeffrey. So I'll start with select board, and again, just kind of throw it out to individuals that may want to be the liaison to the select board. And actually, let me just qualify that one thing as well. You don't have to attend every one in person. Work amongst yourselves, communicate amongst yourselves. You will, like what I like to be able to happen is as we go through meetings, like you're kind of just touching on the highlights. You don't have to give us a dissertation on the whole select board, because they generally are 3+ hours. And so we just kind of want to hit the high notes and hit the high notes for the pieces that really kind of hit the finance committee's purview. And I think also one of the things too is that if there is something there that, you know, kind of comes out of those meetings that you think we all should see, I think that's, you know, that would be, you know, kind of a great thing to be able to share. It's like, hey, attended this last select board meeting, there was this part of it, give a highlight, but, you know, recommend that you be able to see it. So that, I mean, that would be kind of my, you know, kind of 2 cents on that. So kind of given that, is there anyone that wants to be the liaison, you know, wants to be one of the members of liaison to select board?
I can still do it. I'd
Yep.
do it anyway.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Anybody else?
I mean, I do watch most select board meetings, but I, you know, probably better with Marianne, who's been on FinCom more than one meeting.
Yeah, and I will say this, I think for myself, and, you know, if there anyone that has a, you know, kind of an interest in it, you know, Joe, so if you do, and again, also considering that there's others to be able to choose from too. You know, but I tend to attend them as well, you know, from time to
I'm
time.
usually watching, or I'm present, like, on behalf of RAC.
Exactly.
You
So,
know,
yeah, so I think from that perspective, if there are anyone else that wants to be there, then, you know, again, I don't think there's a minimum or a maximum count. I don't necessarily want to have a quorum, but yeah,
What's our quorum? It's high, right? 5?
our quorum is 5. Yes. Yeah. So I'll keep myself on there as well, and again, it doesn't preclude anyone else from joining that, and I'm sure Jean will have a hand in something. So we'll move on to schools and the school committee. Anybody that wants to be a liaison for schools?
I'd
Jeffrey?
like to stay back as a liaison to the schools.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and again, I'm purposely not going off of what we had before, but if anyone, you know, again, if you want to and you were on there before, that, I'm not doing that out of purposely to, you know, kind of keep someone from doing it. Anybody else for schools? Or school committee?
Jean was on it last year.
Yeah, I think she seems to have an affection for it, but, because she, you know, being a former school
Being a
committee
member, exactly,
yeah.
a former
Yeah,
member.
yeah, former member, yeah.
Yeah, anybody else that has any interest? All right, we're good there. The next one I had on my list was RMLD. And I think it would be good to have a couple people for RMLD. I think we've been a little, I mean, I know last year it was Jackie McCarthy. And so it would, you know, it'd be nice to have, you know, kind of a couple people. And I found, you know, kind of Jackie's, you know, kind of updates. And I know there's a new general manager for RMLD. So if there's anyone that, you know, Joe?
Yeah, I'm glad to.
Yep. Anybody else for RMLD?
I'm a little bit interested.
I'll pencil you in, Joe, and again, I think, you know, between myself and Jean, that might be something else too, so.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if Jean really wants it, for example.
And again, if there's 3, that's not a problem, you know, it really isn't, so, all right, so then, the next one I had on here was, library.
Yeah, I can keep doing that. It's fine.
All right, Joe? Anybody else for library? Audit is next, and as chair, I'm fortunate enough to chair the audit committee, so that's one of the 2. I think we do,
I'll do the other one then.
all right, Mark, thanks. Yeah, we do need 2 for audit, don't we, Sharon?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Mark. I didn't want to have to do any arm twisting, so thanks for doing that. All right, so then, now we kind of get back to those departments that I mentioned before. So the first one I had was public
Before you
service.
move on,
Huh?
we have a meeting tomorrow for audit committee.
I'm up, yeah.
You're gonna be there,
Yes.
does Mark know about it?
Yeah, so Mark, you free tomorrow night?
Because I think we have Jean on the list for audit committee.
Yeah, and I know Jean, and actually Jean can't make tomorrow
Yeah, I
night.
know, I didn't think so. So,
Yeah,
Can you
Well,
make it
what time
to,
is it? Where?
She away?
it's here at Town Hall, and it's hybrid, if you want to participate remote. It's gonna be in the select board room tomorrow at 7. Sorry, I didn't mean to like interrupt, but I know that's not who I sent the invite to.
No, I talked to Jean this week. Okay, thanks for that reminder, Sharon, appreciate that. So on public services, this is the one I have next. Again, public services was rec, community development.
I'm all over that one.
All right,
All over that one.
thanks, Emily. Anybody else that wants to liaison for?
I tend to focus on the community development CPDC part of it.
Yep.
Be a
So we'll
good tag
balance it
team.
up.
Perfect, we're in well hands there, ladies, that sounds great. The next one I had was public service, public safety, sorry, I just said public services, public safety. Anybody that wants to be the liaison for public safety? And I don't mind penciling myself in there if there's no one that wants to do that.
Is that, Jackie, is that something that, I was last year, but I don't know if they ever had any meetings or how does that work?
It's not, Fidel, I don't think it's something that, it's not a heavy lift.
I think it's only if something's going on.
Exactly.
We don't have regular
That's right.
meetings. Yeah, I mean, so it's just like if something big's going on, they'll call together the liaisons.
Yeah.
They'll call us?
Yeah.
I didn't get them.
I'm sorry?
If something's happening, you get called,
Yeah, because you're the liaison that's
so
assigned.
there was no meetings last year.
Yeah, it's really rare to have a departmental one call a meeting. So I would say that's a very light lift.
The only board associated with public safety now is Board of Health.
Yeah.
But that's still not a huge task.
The Board of Health, yeah.
Yeah, unless the pandemic
Oh, I
heats up
forgot.
and they need money
Public
again or
safety now
something.
does have the Board of Health, so yeah, that might be, attending those meetings would be part of it.
I'm happy to be penciled in.
Okay,
Weren't you on the Board of Health once, or no, am I mixing it up?
Nope.
No, okay.
Everyone confuses me with Emmy Dove, and I don't know why.
That's Emily,
name.
Emmy, okay.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
it was.
We're
It's
definitely
not
not the same
same
person.
Yeah.
She's very lovely.
Thanks, Emily. All right, so then next one I had was Public Works and Facilities. So that's Public Works, Cemetery, MWRA, Trails in Town, Forest, and Permanent Building Committee. Anybody has any interest in Public Works?
So I noticed that those are sort of split up in the thing that you're pointedly not looking at, because that has a lot of things. And I'm wondering, do we want to split that up at all, or do we?
Yeah, I just had public, because facilities really just had, and when you looked at it from the select board perspective, facilities was just facilities and there wasn't anything else. Everything else from a public works department had everything else underneath it, so that's why I lumped them together. Similar to public safety, I don't think facilities has many things in and of itself solo, and so that's why I just lumped them together versus, I didn't want Joe Huggins to feel that I was ignoring him, so that's why I wanted to loop them together. So at least that he knew that we cared.
The only board under facilities would be the Permanent Building Committee.
Yeah,
Which is a separate board. It's its own board, so
yep.
Does that overlap with Killam somewhat, or no?
that's an interesting.
No, there's actually, well, if I remember correctly from the meeting, I think everyone on PBC was on, or at least attended that Killam.
Oh, yeah, so then maybe it kind of is.
Yeah,
Maybe a synergy if you've already.
Yeah, I mean, and again, so if that has any interest, I mean, again, I have that as a special, so I think it would be good to have at least someone for Killam.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the same person that does the permanent building committee, but I just think we should have somebody for Killam. I just think there's a lot of things that are gonna be
I'm gonna be
happening.
going to all the Killam ones anyway as a parent, so I'm happy to.
Yep, that's,
Save somebody some time.
or I'm just gonna pencil you down there when we get down there, but we can always,
Now, with I've heard that the treasurer or assistant treasurer is leaving, and that's the person who's on the Killam committee, so would
So
they?
he agreed to continue if Vidal allows it.
Oh.
Because he's a Reading resident. He
Oh.
would continue to serve on the board.
Yeah, because I
Even
didn't know
after
if
we leave,
there was a requirement on the Killam committee to have a person from either treasury or FinCom on it.
I knew that the charter says you have to be a Reading resident, so I think that's why he was selected, because he's an
Okay.
employee who's a Reading resident.
I thought
yeah.
that the MSBA required a treasurer or finance committee or someone from town.
Oh, is that true? I don't think I knew
Fidel, is that true that the MSBA requires someone from a town financial department to be on the school building committee?
That is true. That's right. We have a requirement to have someone that is in charge of finances. You know, it's a general term, but
But someone with that link.
now that Andrew has put his notice, we'll definitely have to evaluate what that means, certainly.
So now, if we don't have anybody in finance who lives in Reading, you could serve on the board, you just wouldn't have a vote, is that correct?
I think we'll have to figure this out. I mean, yeah, I mean,
I think that's the
I'm
way.
not sure that I have the answer to that right now, unfortunately.
I mean,
Because I could certainly do it, or, depending on who replaces.
But I also think for that position, you want someone from the staff versus FinCom is your person, like that would slide into
That's why I was wondering if it could be, FinCom could be an interim until you have a staff person.
Yeah, I
wondered.
think you want this, I don't want to speak for you, Fidel, but that's how I thought it would be town staff versus a FinCom member.
Yeah, I think that's what we were thinking too, but.
That was the original intent. I mean, this, him resigning obviously is a huge monkey wrench, to the operation. I mean, and completely unexpected. I mean, yeah, so unfortunately, the Killam School is gonna be the least of our worries.
No,
With
absolutely.
this departure, yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we're not pleased with it.
Sorry, Sharon.
We're very happy for him, just sad for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
It's got a
Sorry
really
to
good
bring up bad news, but I know I
offer.
heard about it, so.
All right, well,
Everybody's heard about it, I've heard a lot from a lot of you.
yeah, so let's circle back. Anyone for Public Works, on that?
If it's Public Works and someone else is covering Permanent Building Committee, that's doesn't actually seem so like
Okay.
Trails Forest.
All right, so I'll split out permanent building.
I mean, 'cause if every Killam School Building Committee meeting is a Permanent Building Committee meeting, then a Permanent Building Committee person is going to be at all the Killam
Exactly,
meetings.
yeah, exactly.
So it makes more sense to make those the same liaison versus.
Well, I mean, and again, we can, we can have two in that way for permanent
I mean, the
building.
Killam's the heavy lift there because
Exactly.
we've got a project pending. But
Exactly.
But, they could be entertaining other thoughts of other projects we might be thinking about, which would just be permanent building, yeah.
So Joe, were you leaning towards Public Works? I didn't want to put words in.
Yes.
Okay.
And is the Killam School Board a separate liaison?
I think we should have a separate liaison for that, for Killam. But
I would do that.
yeah, so between you and Mark, you and Emily, I think we're well covered there, and I think, again, we'll have others that'll have a lot of interest in that one. I think it's, and I know we'll talk about that, as we get a little bit farther down on the agenda, but, so that'll be another topic of conversation. We can dig into that a little bit deeper.
So is the trails covered under something else then? Like the-
Trails is under public, trails in town forest are, I had kind of lumped under Public Works.
Okay.
From a budget point of view, that's how it works.
Yeah. So Joe, if you want to be part, I mean, again, we can have multiple people. It's,
Yeah, I don't mind being involved in
Yeah.
public works, I guess, yeah. So, do they have regular meetings or?
Trails in town,
Yeah, Trails in Town Forest have meetings.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Public Works, again, less so. We did, I mean, Gina and I did something, right when Bob was leaving, we actually met with both Joe and Jane, kind of together, just to talk about capital projects just in general. And I know we have that as something else to be able to talk about. So I think it's probably not, like, they don't necessarily are calling, kind of meetings, unless there's something, kind of significant event. But I do think that there's a big component of capital planning that's part of that, which is interesting. All right, so then the last one that I had that was kind of a town department was admin services. And again, probably the the bigger one on that perspective was our CTV and Climate Advisory Committee. At least that's how the select board has them, kind of grouped together. Does anybody have any interest in being the liaison for that? And again, we can always check with Jean and on that one too, if there's not someone that's jumping out at that one. So we can just we can pencil in Jean, and then she can always tell us to tell me to pound sand. So that's fine. So I'll do that, and then I'll just, when I send this over to you, Jackie, I have RAC on mine, and we obviously know the folks that are on that one on our side. Joe and Jeffrey. Was there any, did anybody else have, and again, so I think we have some good coverage. If there's anyone that, wants to be a liaison as a kind of, after thinking about it as a duplicate, let me know now, or if not, you can always kind of reach out after the fact too. That sound good to everybody for now? Perfect. All right, good. That was easy enough. Thanks, everybody. All right, so the next one that we had on here was the request to supplement the veterans service officer salary from our reserves. I don't know, Fidel, Sharon, if one of you wanted to be able to give us I know it's in the packet, but just give us a little bit of background.
Fidel, did you want me to do it, or are you gonna do it?
I think we do it, that'd be great, Sharon, thank you.
So essentially, we had a full-time veteran service agent who also served as our community services director. He retired in June, and we promoted from within somebody to the community services director position, but we're required by law to have a full-time VSO, and you have to be a veteran to be a VSO, so you couldn't just give that to the new person.
Gotcha.
And so it ends up creating a shortfall on that. We have to hire that, and we don't have enough money there for that. So the $30,000 is to bring us back to the required full-time position. It has to be a separate position because the person we promoted is not a veteran.
And that's Mr. Is it, how do you say his last name?
Oh,
The new VSO. Is it
William.
Valerie.
I haven't met him yet, so I don't know.
All right, I'm glad everyone else butchered it too, so it's not just me. So we can say that, if the name was pronounced wrong, they can't just pin it on me. But yeah, so no, so I saw that as the bullet too, so that's great.
We figured this would be the quickest way to be able
That's
to
perfect.
hire and get a feel for whether or not FinCom would support it. So we kind of spoke of it earlier, and then
Yep.
now that we're into the fiscal year, we can actually do the transfer if you guys are in favor.
Any questions or comments on so just to kind of summarize, we're looking to transfer $30,000 out of our $200,000 reserve fund balance to be able to fund the gap in funding for his salary.
And so in November, what we would do is refund that back to you,
Yep.
so that you always have $200,000 at your disposal.
Yep.
It's just this kind of the timing of this. It was after April town meeting that we learned of his retirement, and so just the timing didn't work out for us to have asked for it, so.
Good, Mary.
So maybe I didn't hear what you said correctly. So previously we had a full-time or a part-time VSO?
We had a full-time VSO who also served as the community services director, and that was somehow allowed. The
Okay.
law does say, that you do have to have, if you're over a certain population, a full-time VSO.
So it's not based on the population of veterans we have?
No,
Like,
it's the population of the
town, how many veterans does the town have?
Geez, I
that
don't
were
know.
serving?
That would
'Cause
not
what-
be a number I know off the top
Oh,
of my
because
head.
I thought am I confusing it where, remember we had in the FY '23 budget, you said, oh, this number is going down.
Yeah, they're definitely, we've seen the numbers going down of how many veterans we have. I just don't know off the top of my head how many there are.
Right, no, because it
So
was
what
like
happens
something
is that
moved
as
up.
they pass away, if we don't identify others that have moved into our community or that are in need, sometimes we see that the expenses are going down because either they're moving out of our community or they're passing away
Right.
or whatever the case might be. So we have seen those numbers of what we've needed for the veteran support go down over the last few years, and we suspect it has to do with people moving out or people
Okay,
passing.
so my point was just, even if it's only a part-time need based on the population of veterans, it still lost or
The law requires it.
a full-time
And so
position.
it was kind of a good thing because the VSO served double capacity, but they're always supposed to be doing outreach, looking to identify others who may be in need that are in fact veterans that don't know about the services.
Okay.
So it's part of the job.
And then my other question, I guess, is, so this is something though that will have to be an extra 30,000 in every budget now from now on,
Mhm.
because we have to budget it differently. Okay.
It just kind of changed things up in an unexpected way.
Sharon, that 30,000 is for the whole fiscal year.
Yeah, that's the difference of what we had on that line item for full-time, so.
So the packet mentioned something about possible regionalization. Is that ongoing or?
So I can talk about that. So the state law basically requires any town that has more than 12,000 residents, not veterans, to have a full-time VSO. It does allow for regionalization. Regionalization though is complex and requires, coordination and essentially an intermunicipal agreement, and we have that in place for the assessor, right? And obviously regionalization makes sense, when it makes sense, right? So I spoke to Wakefield, I spoke to Stoneham, Wilmington, and the timing is just not right. They all have VSOs that are either in flux or kind of in transition. We're definitely still pursuing those conversations, but it's more of a long-term approach, if you will.
So, yeah, so after we've done this on our end and we have this VSO, depending on, we may be able to,
We could regionalize.
we could regionalize ours.
Because we could be the host community.
We could be the host, yeah,
sharing
gotcha.
the VSO.
Depending on, obviously some other
We have
factors.
a lot, we entertain that option a lot with.
Yeah, 'cause we do- we-
Whatever communities that we can do on a position like the assessor is regionalized and, and I believe that, didn't we just do the animal control?
Animal control,
officer
right?
is regionalized with Wakefield as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
So
by
wherever
animal
we
control.
can save money by doing regionalization, we're always entertaining that.
Yep.
Sometimes it works out timing wise, sometimes it doesn't.
That's perfect, that's good. Thanks, Jeffrey, for asking that question, that's good clarity. Any other questions, comments before?
No,
I have one other question.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So that, glancing at the minutes, we transferred 50,000 out of our FinCom reserve at the last meeting, but that was for last fiscal year, right? So we're starting over this July 1st, we started
Yes.
over with the new 200,000.
Right, that was-
And 150,000 or so that was left in our reserves, that went back into free cash.
Yes, that's correct. So the last vote you had was, we had to do by July 15th, any FinCom transfers that we needed to do, we had to do them by July 15th. And so the last meeting, you guys did the one for fiscal '22, and now that we're in fiscal '23, we're doing this one because this one is from a different year.
Great question, Jeffrey, thanks again for asking that. Beat Joe to the punch, I guess.
No, mine was simpler. Like,
Same.
The Joes were in agreement, Jeffrey, like, yeah, this is good, we're all on the same page, I like this.
yeah. Just quickly though, so
Yeah.
what's the total salary, full-time salary?
I don't remember. Fidel, do you happen to know off the top of your head?
Yes, his salary is 63,000. So we had 34,000 actually budgeted as a part-time position. So this is to cover from his part-time salary budgeted to a full-time salary.
Full-time.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, so then I'll need to take, I need a motion to move that 30,000 from the FinCom. Where is it actually? Oh, yeah, okay, so I just need a motion for that 30,000.
move to transfer 30,000 from the FinCom reserves to town,
To the VSO salary.
to the VSO salary.
Thanks, Marion.
Second?
Thanks, Emily. All right, we'll vote. Jeffrey,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Joe Carnahan,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Joe McDonough,
Yes.
Emily,
Yep.
and Ed. Yes, 7-0.
And you'll sign the.
I have mine here. I can-
And then I'll have Fidel sign it after.
All right.
Just so we
I
have.
wrote on the front of it, but
I have one here if you want.
Yeah, the page, the page that has the required signature, I didn't write on.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I'll give you mine.
sorry about that.
I have no need for it other than to get your signature
All right,
anyway.
perfect. Give you my Herbie Hancock right now. All right, awesome. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, perfect. We are motoring along here. Terrific. All right, so then next couple ones are just, I think, more just kind of touching base a little bit on a few topics. This next one here was just a discussion on continuing free cash support for extra capital in FY24. Thanks very much for, yeah, so in the packet, we had,
It's kind of small.
yeah, the
to read.
capital improvement plan, which is, I think it's 7 or 8 pages.
Yeah, it's kind of lengthy, but the top of it kind of summarizes by category.
Yep,
The reason I brought this up is Fidel and I started to meet with department heads, DPW and facilities, which are heavy hitters for
Yep.
capital. And practically every line item was going up based on the inflation. And we want to make sure we have enough on our capital lines, because if we actually put something out to bid and we don't have enough money, then we have to wait and go back to town meeting. So it was advantageous for us to reconsider the amounts that we had on our capital plan and figure out, are these going to be sufficient given the current market? And so practically every number went up. And we had discussed in the past that fiscal '24 would be the last year that we do 5.5% of our
Yep.
budget for debt and capital. And when we, after these two meetings, I, kind of tried to balance it, because boy, it was way out of balance after we started moving stuff around and putting more stuff in, or, more cost in for each item. And so what I found was for fiscal '24, we would be slightly over the 5.5%. So we'd need an additional, I think it was like 169,000. And that, we haven't even met with like police and fire yet to see if their numbers are changing. And then so then moving things around without pushing things too far out that were needed, it looked to me like the solution might be, and I wanted to get you guys' take on it, is maybe extending that out to fiscal '25 and considering doing 5.5 for one more year, so that we can get all these things that were on our plan done, without, because the prices of everything has gone up so dramatically. So it looks like in fiscal '24, and we're just looking, this is just like the second draft of this, and like I said, we haven't seen all of our department heads, we've seen the two biggest ones.
yep.
And it was hard to balance it after meeting with them and having things either added or increased. It's really, it's mind-boggling how difficult it is, because there's time issues that are going on there. People can't wait 5 years out, and you can't push everything out so far. So what I came up with, which, if you guys tell me we don't think that's feasible, we'll figure something else out. But I figured it's worth a discussion about, is a little extra free cash to keep us moving on our capital plan okay, and something that you guys would consider? And then also, would you consider for fiscal '25 doing 5.5 again? Because as you can see, if you're looking at this, fiscal '24, we end up at 5.56, and we haven't changed everything, but I'll move things around, try and keep it at the 5.5 as close as we can.
Yep.
And then at fiscal '25, we end up just under 5.5, and then we're back to 5%. And so I've updated debt planning and facilities and DPW capital planning. And so this is where we are at the current time. So I wanted to give you an update because we had planned on stopping the additional 0.5% in fiscal '24, and it looked like we needed maybe a little bit more, but I do feel like capital is one of those things that is a one-time cost, and it's a good
Yep.
use of free cash. So when I was looking at, and we're just starting the process of really looking at the numbers for fiscal '24, we were thinking that for fiscal '24, I mean, fiscal '23, we used $2,750,000 to support the budget. And we usually plan to bring it down. With the inflationary environment, I think that we can't bring it down, or we shouldn't. I don't think we'll be able to with all the things we're trying to do, because FinCom did ask Fidel and I to meet with the school department and try and come up with a plan to get that full day K. And so what I did, the preliminary plan, and we're gonna see if it works out, and we talked to the superintendent, said, you know, let's build in a community priority starting at 150, to see if we can balance that. And then at November town meeting, we tend to have some excess in growth, and maybe we can give you another 150 at November, and so we can maybe do this over a 4-year period. So there's more than just this inflation that we're
Yep.
building into this budget. We're also trying to help solve a problem on the school side, and we're trying to be collaborative about it and not have to ask for an override. It might mean that we leave free cash at $2,750,000 for fiscal '24, and, you know, go down slightly in fiscal '25. So we'll see how it all balances out, but I think it was important to kind of mention to you guys that this was looking the way it's looking, so that you're not shocked when we come to you with, we want to use the same amount of free cash this year, and we want to go to 5.5 for, you know, fiscal '25. I felt like as soon as we saw that that was the direction we were headed, that you should know that and know if you're in support of that, and if not, we need to go back to the drawing board. So
Sounds
that
good.
was kind of the reason for this conversation. As soon as Fidel and I realized how much the costs were going up, we felt like this is something that FinCom should be aware of, and, you know, and make a conscious choice. Are we pushing things out? Are we willing to use a little bit more free cash to keep things moving?
Aaron, what are the large items in the public safety, the fire EMS, and the roads? Is there something big?
So, what was the question? What was the large things in
Fire and EMS, I think, was 900,000.
Yeah,
Is there
that's
something
a
big?
fire truck. So a lot of communities will, a fire truck, they'll borrow for it, and we tend not to do that. We don't like to pay interest if we can avoid it, and so we try and work it into our 5%. So a fire truck can be almost $1 million, so it really takes a good piece of our capital. So whenever a fire truck is in the capital plan, it really makes it hard to do a lot of other things. So we try and balance it out. And we try not to push things off that are important like that. So, and we're not borrowing for it. I mean, the auditors are always, you know, commenting on how little debt we have and how quickly we pay off debt and how positive that looks to the bond rating agencies, and just in general, it shows that we're very financially responsible. So that's what we would like to continue doing, is not ask for things like a fire truck and get a debt exclusion for a fire truck. But we would prefer to try and keep moving things into the capital plan and do the 5% and try and avoid debt unless it's a larger amount.
And that's separate from the ladder truck, right?
I'm not sure. I haven't actually met with the public safety yet. That 900,000 hasn't even been addressed if it's going up yet. So we're meeting with them when Fidel gets back next week. We're meeting with Greg and his team, and then we'll be meeting with David Clark about any capital they have. And I would imagine every department head's going to at least want to bump those numbers up a little bit to be sure that they're not going to be in a position where they put something out to bid, or they go to try and buy something and they don't have enough budget. So the 900,000 hasn't even been touched yet. I left it alone. I didn't know what to put there yet. That was what Bob had prior, and I would expect it might go up. And then we do a balancing act. Some things we'll push out, things that are less urgent we'll push out. We try and make things work, but some things are time sensitive.
Yeah, we might want to look at recommending, you know, if it is a long-term asset, usually you use long-term funding for that, so we might want to revisit that.
It's something to be considered. I think it's just one of those things that we haven't been doing because it's, you know, it's keeping bigger projects on the table for us. So, you know, we're not crowding out things with a lot of debt inside the levy.
Yeah, the ladder truck was actually in FY '22, and it has been under contract, and we did get an earmark because the bid price actually came, you know, higher than was budgeted. So in FY '24, what we're seeing is basically that every truck that is being requested by DPW, is coming either 30% or higher in price, right? So a 16-wheel dump truck, is coming in, originally it was budgeted at 200, say, and now it's coming in at 240, right? I mean, and believe me, we push back and ask all the questions. Can this wait another year? Is this something that is a priority? And what DPW said is we could wait another year, but it's a huge gamble, right? And on a snowstorm, it's not a gamble you want to take.
Yep.
Right. So the reason why these pieces of equipment are on the schedule is because they have exceeded their useful life, and it's time.
Yep.
And if you look to the left, you can see, that in fiscal 25, the 900,000 is to replace a pumper engine that's from 2007. So we're keeping them a good long time. We're not, but you were really pushing how far we can go with that truck.
Any other questions from folks?
I guess I do have one other question. I mean, given that we do have a significant free cash balance and we are seeing inflation, headed upwards, are there things that we should think about buying now before inflation makes them, another 10 to 20% more expensive? Instead of pushing out to do the extra, $500,000 or something in the following FY, 25, right? Do we pull that $500,000 in and spend it in FY 24 or even FY 23 to get it before inflation really starts to bite us that much more?
That's certainly an option, I think. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. I mean, we had that conversation, and Sharon actually suggested bringing things to November town meeting, obviously, and asking for additional funding in November town meeting from free cash to buy things that that basically would be on the FY 24 capital plan. I think our hesitation is how much more are we going to get than the $2.2 million that we're going to be asking for the Killam School, right? I mean, it's not something that I have a great gauge on, right? I mean, I think that we can make an argument for every item on the capital plan. It's more, is town meeting going to be okay with funding things heavily aside from the $2.2 million that we are already asking from free cash for the Killam School?
The other thing that we typically do as we approach the end of a fiscal year, as we're approaching April town meeting, we start to assess if we have savings in other areas such as benefits, and then we'll use that to try and pull things off the capital plan and put them on April town meeting, things that we can get done quickly. Sometimes that can't be projects, but like if you've got a truck, you can order a truck, things like that. So if you look back, you'll see that that's something that we regularly would do is take money away from a line that has some extra, like maybe benefits, and try and do some of this capital, but it's just hard to say at this point that that's going to be available to us, and knowing that we're asking for 2.2 for the Killam School, the free cash might not be an option for this, so.
I do think,
So right now we had, last we looked, right, it was something like 17 million in free cash, which was well above FinCom's 7% guidance, right? So I would say, anything above that 7% guidance is something we should consider. And, we're not gonna go out and buy everything just to bring it down to the 7% guidance, but let's look at, if we're planning to spend that $500,000 in FY 25, does it make sense to bring it into FY 24 to beat inflation if the plan is to spend it anyway, one year or the other? And we can save 20% by spending it a year earlier.
Yeah, that's part of the conversation. Yeah, it's part of the conversation is, what does FinCom think the next move should be? Should we be trying to front load this into 24, some of these things, or should we be planning it out and planning to do 5.5 for 24 and 25 and, see how it goes? But It's hard to know what's gonna happen with inflation. It's
Yeah,
hard to know
I-
if it's gonna get
God,
worse.
I hope it doesn't keep doing
I
exactly
can't
what it
imagine
did
it,
for the
I
last
can't
year.
imagine it's gonna get worse, but I always said that.
Yeah, you didn't imagine last year either, so.
No.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and I think, Jeffrey, I think your point is well thought out. I think what I'd like to be able to see, to be able to inform us, is having that list of priority, like, so whatever, answering specifically, like, for bringing something from 25 or out into 24, is looking at that priority list as far as what's the most sensitive. You know, and most sensitive as far as need, and most sensitive to inflation. If there's a way to be able to kind of, you know,
To drill into that, yeah.
to be able to kind of hone in on those two pieces, I think that is what we would need to be able to, amongst us on the committee, to get some comfort around doing that. It's specifically to kind of, to, I think, to, you know, to Jeffrey's question about pulling things in.
I can see Fidel raising his hand on Sharon's screen.
Oh, is he raising his
I
hand?
appreciate it.
I didn't see it.
One example that we keep talking about is Haven Street, right? So Haven Street, we have decided to redo Haven Street and make it look like Main Street, and similar to what we saw for Mount Liaison Morgan, you know, agencies want to see a fully designed, you know, shovel-ready project, right? So our engineering department keeps pushing us to fund the full design of Haven Street, so that we can apply to grants, right? You know, we made the argument to ARPA about getting, you know, some funding in order to make a shovel ready, and our engineering department is basically saying the same thing for Haven Street. Go to town meeting in November and request some funding for free cash in order to make it shovel ready, and apply for mass works, apply for, you know, for the heavily funded programs that can actually pay for construction.
Is this Haven Street water and sewer, or something with just the aesthetics of it?
So Haven Street Water and Sewer has been funded already, and
Right.
it's actually underway. Yeah, this is the streetscape, it's called, right? So it basically, you know, the roadway lighting, bump outs, you know, creating wide sidewalks so that it's more welcoming for pedestrians. It's basically turning it into Main Street.
I mean, I'm not disparaging it, but when I compare that with, okay, we have to buy an ambulance, we have to buy a dump truck, like, that's where our money that's great, that's like the nice to have, but then we have to say to our public safety, what do you need to have to keep the Reading residents safe? And those are gonna be
I think
the
that's-
inflation things that
I think that, and that gets to the overall point. like-
town meeting will say that too.
And I think, and that's where we need to rely on, you know, kind of, staff. Like, you know,
Yeah.
again, you're taking all of that into consideration.
Right.
You know what I mean, like,
Could
it's,
businesses or all these 40Rs, like, that are gonna
Yep.
benefit from a better streetscape kick in? Maybe it can all be covered with grants. I mean, a lot, you know, in 2009, with the town square, they got a lot of money for that.
I think that part of it is that they wanna really get the design 100% so that they can apply for grants, and,
Yeah.
you know.
Guess it depends
I'm just
on
gonna jump
costs.
back, just a couple questions, at least that I had, and I'm sorry to kind of jump in front of other folks if they haven't. Just Sharon, first one I had is, when would you need to know on either FY '24 or FY '25? Like, when would you need to know that from us?
Well, I think that this is kind of a precursor to our finance forums, and kind of giving you something to think about, because usually the guidance related to free cash is given at those finance forums, so we can start to build the budget.
Yep.
So I wanted this to be kind of food for thought for you guys to be thinking about what number you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
What I can tell you about free cash is it's too early to tell you what's being regenerated on the expense side, but I am seeing significant regeneration on the revenue side. So I do think that the number will be a healthy number still.
Yep.
You know, we have used a lot of free cash to support, so it's hard to see how it will balance out, but we have been very fortunate in recent years, and the whole 10 years I've been here, really nice regeneration numbers. So I'm hoping that, you know, that we have a healthy balance and there's more comfort around larger number, keeping the 2,750,000 or maybe even more if we needed it, but.
Gotcha.
So our thoughts are right now is keeping it level, trying to keep it level, not increasing it, but, but that's up to you guys if that's where your comfort level is. We want to see how, when we throw everything in there, that extra 150,000 for the school, for our community priority for the full day K, and, adding in all this new capital and potential debt that we might take on for things. Where does it land us with our operating budgets? Are they manageable? And that would be something that when we come to finance forum, we'd be able to give you some options. If you give us this much money, this is what the operating budget looks like. Right now, we're kind of just getting started. We've started with capital. Accommodated cost is a big piece of this. And I suspect that when we get to things like gas, we're going to see,
Yep.
the number that we had is very low for what we're going to need. And so we're going to have those numbers coming in over the next few months, and as we approach financial forum, you'll have more options. We'll
Yeah,
be able
and
to
we-
tell you, this is what this will cost, this is what this operating budget, 3% will cost, 3.5%,
Perfect. And I think that was the other thing, it would be good for us to know impact. Even, if it's capital versus, operating, what that ends up looking like. If we stay at 5.5, what is that in real dollars as far as how does that change, FY24, FY25? Things that, I think having those, numbers would, and I think some of it's listed in here, but
I think it was just very telling to Fidel and I how much some of
Yep.
these numbers were going up, and I knew that the chances of us bringing down the free cash use, I mean, obviously it's up to you guys what we use for free cash, but that what we would come to you with is probably going to be a number that's at least equivalent to what we used this year in order to get some of this stuff to work.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, it is something that is, the free cash, kind of discussion just in general, I think is, there are other, kind of targets for free cash as well that I think that, and again, there'll be some things that come out of, the back end of RAC, and I think even, kind of within those discussions, there are things in there that, could have a free cash implication.
But it's easier to make those decisions when you know what the balance is at the time. Like right
Exactly.
now, we're kind of in limbo. We know what we had, what we used,
Yep.
what did we regenerate?
Exactly.
And where's that number going to be certified at? And so when you have those numbers, it's so much more,
And
it's
we
so
get
much
that-
easier to make a decision when you feel secure that DUR has certified X amount.
And that's at the end of September.
Usually it's at the end of September, and the reason for that is grants tend to be reimbursement in nature, so we spend the money and then the grant will reimburse us. If at June 30th we're in a deficit, meaning we spent money and we haven't gotten it back from the grant, if I were to file for free cash, they would take the deficit away from my free cash. If I wait till September 30th and I actually receive the money by September 30th, I don't have it deducted. So it maximizes the free cash to wait
Yep.
and see what kind of receipts you get on the drawdowns that you did at the end of the year and see if they come in by that date. Most times they will, and it minimizes the impact to your free cash. And grants is where you see that the most, is that they usually expect that you spend it and then you put in a report and then they send you, the money. So depending on when the manager of that grant does that, sometimes things come in after June 30th and that saves us from having that impact our free cash.
Any other questions on this one? I appreciate you, kind of giving us that. That's definitely something to think of, kind of kind of financial forum.
But I think the guidance would probably come at finance forum, and we can, or anytime you felt comfortable saying, well, we feel at least comfortable with where we were last year. I mean, but like I said, without a free cash certified number, I don't know that you'd want to make a
Yeah,
decision.
I agree. Quick, just since we were just talking about financial forum, I know that was not the next bullet, but so I just want to be able to take that out of order if we can, unless anyone has any other questions for Sharon or Fidel on the extra capital for FY24, extra free cash for capital in 24.
I mean,
Go ahead.
you know what, actually, Sharon, if I can get you to explain that in the context of the spreadsheet that's here, I don't want to take up everybody's time because nobody else can see my screen.
Okay.
So I'll ask you later. Thank you.
Okay.
So just on financial forum planning, I just want to take that one a little bit out of order just because it's topical, just where we left off. I did have a discussion with the select board chair over the last couple weeks. And as we're talking about the financial forum, I think we might want to have, kind of a couple of sessions, kind of 2 financial forums, and one of them just to be able to kind of bounce an idea or share an idea with you. And I think both Fidel and Sharon know this a little bit, but I think might have been Karen that attended a discussion from the Division of Local Services, Sean
Cronin.
Sean Cronin.
Cronin. I was going to say, you know what it is? I know what I wrote. I'm going to actually admit it. It says on I wrote it down. I have Sean Connery, but it's not Sean Connery. It is. So yes. So sorry about that. But it gave me a double take.
Autocorrect, huh?
It gave me a double take, so I'm glad I paused. But I gave it away anyways. And the discussion that Karen attended, I guess there were like kind of 2 parts to it. One of them was around just talking about how we think more broadly about municipal finance. And then there was, it was kind of broke up into kind of 2 sections. One is on, municipal finance, and I think that would be just helpful to kind of level set for all of us. As a relative rule, our finance committee is not that, across the board, we don't have 6 years of, experience on the finance committee. So I think just in general, that might be a kind of a good use of, kind of a or the first part of a financial forum, where we could kind of level set, get some kind of understanding of best practices from a municipal finance perspective. And then there was another part to that discussion where they were talking about school projects, in large projects. And again, we've already kind of mentioned, kind of Killam. So I think having that as as kind of a standalone kind of financial, that at least gives us some level set. It allows us to be able to kind of take that and then think about it as that applies to Reading, and then be able to kind of come back for like a real financial forum, for lack of a better term, where we have actually kind of taken that, given it some thought, and then having a really kind of worthwhile discussion.
Yeah, I had a similar conversation with Karen Herrick about the presentations that Sean Cronin had given, and then she felt it was very helpful. It's a good kind of update on municipal finance, especially if you're new to FinCom or don't really work in municipal government.
or just interested in general. I mean, definitely for us, but then for a broader audience, that kind of is kind of in tune to that, whether it's on a specific project or just in general.
Yeah,
I think that would be very helpful.
Just knowing that we've got Killam on, coming, just to know more about that process. It's been many years since we've had an MSBA project going on, so it's a good refresher. Things have changed in the many years since we've done the high school, just so that we're all on the same page. We know what we need to be focused on and all of that. So I did reach out to Sean Cronin and see if he would be willing to give a similar presentation at one of our finance forums, and he said, let me know what the date is, and hopefully he'll be available for whatever date we pick. So I've got to get back to him on that. So we've already kind of preliminarily have gotten committed to giving something that would help us all kind of understand a little bit better about the MSBA projects, and just a good overview of municipal finance, especially if that's not your area of expertise.
Yeah, I mean, when Mark, kind of mentioned it, I just thought it was a fantastic idea, and I think it would, one of my, it's not a criticism of our financial forums of late, is that it's, there's topics there that typically we don't get a chance to really, there's not a lot of chance to kind of take something away and think about it, and then, and be able, and so I think giving us the level set baseline, and then being able to say, okay, well, then you can kind of advocate and have a kind of, I don't know, just a better discussion, around those, any of those items. And I think, having that kind of pre-thing where we can level set would be really, kind of, I think, set us up well. And what I would recommend is that we think about, for Sean's one, is try to do something, kind of in September, and whether it's, kind of mid-September on, having a
like the earlier of the 2 finance forums.
Exactly.
he seemed willing, so that's, hopefully he'll be available for whatever day we select.
Yeah. And so I think, you know, kind of date-wise as it goes, for,
So we're thinking like a September finance forum and an October.
yes, that's what I would, yeah, cause again, cause we don't necessarily need free cash for, you know what I mean, for that, so
To
we
have that
could.
conversation.
To have that conversation, and so that's just using our time wisely, I think, at the end of the day, Sharon, is like, you know, okay, you know, we could do this, level set, we're not gonna know free cash anyways, and then we can do an October one where we
It
have
gives us a
that.
good baseline of information.
The baseline information, and then we
I
get
do
the.
feel like, you know, people get on a board and they're learning as they go, and it's nice to get somebody to come in and give you a good baseline understanding of some of what you're seeing, you know. 'Cause sometimes people won't ask the question because they're like, oh, I should probably know this, but no, municipal finance is.
I've been waiting for Joe and Emily to ask a lot of questions, because it only helps me.
Yeah.
But no, I think about it from, again, even from my perspective, having, you know, I think it would have been great on my first year to be able to have that, but in my fourth year, I think it's, I mean, I'm
I feel like they
so.
should do it automatically. that you have
Exactly.
Things that they.
I really do, I think it'll be,
Because it's so different from working for a company, like finances for municipal government is so
Yeah,
different.
It's a
It's
great
a-
idea.
Yeah.
it's a completely different animal. I mean, so I think that, you know, and again, I think we, on our end, I just want to be able to ask, you know, kind of Mary Ann, I know in September, like, do you guys already have dates for RAC in
I was just
September?
going through my calendar, and I think we just have August 3rd, and then I think we thought the 31st, though Fidel might have said the 30th, like something that last week. So we don't have any September dates for RAC. We're trying to wrap it up. I
That's
think
right,
It's
yep.
gonna depend on how our discussions go in resolving things, but I think we're hoping by
And so you're next week.
August
you're
30th, we have one August 3rd,
Third, yep.
and then August either 30th or 31st. The 31st is a Monday, the 30th is a Tuesday, so I don't know if there's any select board on Tuesday. I
I think the select board is meeting on the 13th. Jackie, you might know more than me, but it might be the 13th or the 27th. But for sure, I'm sorry, I think it's the 13th or the 20th.
Of
I think
September?
that's right.
August
Oh,
is,
September.
okay, yeah, no, we don't,
September.
yeah, we don't have any, September dates. I just know when it pops up on my calendar, we have to keep aware of the Jewish holidays in there too, though I don't see anything on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I think the good thing is knowing the select board meetings is good because we're gonna try, a finance forum would involve all the boards. We kind of
Right.
know that select board's meeting on a certain date and when school committee's meeting, so that makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 14th or the 21st, date-wise,
For September.
Sounds great.
yeah.
For one of those dates or both of those dates?
Just one of those dates.
One
I
of
mean,
those.
if you have to give Sean a couple different options.
Yeah, just to give them some options and see if that, and then that gives me an opportunity to look and see, or for all of us to go and look and see, like, does
Yep.
this interfere with any other board meeting?
The only thing without knowing what the school calendars are, the school committee would want to be there. And then I know they want to not overlap when the schools have curriculum nights, which,
Oh, I'm not familiar with when
Those
they
are
do the
generally
curriculum.
like the first or second week, they're very early.
it depends. I know the high school last year was
Yeah.
like September 28th, but we all started like late last year, so yeah, they could
last
be
year was
early.
weird.
They haven't select those.
I wanna say the one for, like, it's at Barrows, I wanna say it's the 14th, might be,
Oh, you think that might be
possibly.
a
I'm
no-go?
not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
just
some of
don't know
them.
if that affects any
I think
board
it-
members who want to be
I
at
think
those.
before I send anything out to Sean, we'll verify that it's not interfering with other boards.
Well, the
meetings,
schools
yeah.
have their, my phone's not a great place, but they have their calendars, and I think they try to standardize a lot of those things, and if it's all early,
Yeah.
yeah, because compared to, I was thinking of last year, but last year was messed up. And last year, we had a financial forum, August 31st, but we had to have everything early because of the
Yep.
early town
meeting, yep.
meeting.
We had an
But
October-
RAC can work around anything, because it'd probably be just a wrapping up.
Well, I mean, and I guess to that end, Sharon, like, again, I think outside of the 7th I'm like, so we could even think about doing something on the 28th too. You know, any of those Wednesdays,
Let's see what we can figure out.
Okay.
That's a Wednesday, right?
yep.
All of them are Wednesday dates?
So,
Good.
I'm looking at so maybe this is not
he's
the
got the
curriculum night.
calendar.
Yes, I've got the
Yay.
calendar. That's the good news.
The school
Um,
calendar? Oh, good,
yes,
that's what, you'll
and
be able to
the,
do it much better there
so-
than here.
The
So
14th is.
The 14th is open houses for elementary, the 22nd is open houses for middle school, and the 28th is open house for high school.
Right, high school's always at the end.
Okay, so is
So-
there anything on the
so-
20th or the 28th of September?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, the 28th is
28th
open house for the high school.
Yes,
21st looks like the best date.
yes. I can't do the 28th myself.
So,
but
so
I
far
know
you think that, do we have anything for the 20th?
on
20th,
the
I think,
school
I
calendar,
think that's what Fidel said, the select board is
And then,
actually already
yeah,
meeting on the
the,
I
20th.
believe we have a select board meeting on the 20th, for sure on the 13th.
no. Okay, yeah.
Oh, well,
13th
the
is
select
when?
board's Tuesday, isn't it? Not
Yeah.
Wednesday, right?
Yeah, the Wednesday's the 21st.
Okay, so Wednesday the 21st.
Oh, okay,
Are there
the 21st.
school nights on the 21st, or is that middle
No.
school?
22nd, middle school's on the 22nd according to what I'm looking at right here.
Oh, maybe because it's a Jewish holiday thing.
No,
Is that what-
Jewish. Okay.
The 26th is
Hats
there.
off to somebody who did this. Yeah, Rosh Hashanah
That is
is
so
the 26th and
helpful.
27th.
Yeah.
It's on the school calendar. The
Assuming they got it
major.
right. Assuming they got it
you know,
right.
Yes, no, I can tell you, I can tell you Diwali is October 24th, thanks to the school calendar. It's
very
like,
nice.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it looks like that 21st doesn't have.
Yeah, the 21st maybe.
Yeah, I don't know why it's 22nd instead of 21st, but I'm not asking questions, I'm just saying it's a good
And
day.
the other possibility is picking a day that's on Wednesday.
It's true too. Yeah, I mean, I just went off of what we
Right.
knew, yeah, because we can kind of control what we do. And I can, I could always circle back to, on the heels of this and talk to both, Sean and Mark, both chairs and
Okay.
just, and check and see what their thoughts are, if they had any major conflicts around those dates. But the 21st looks wide open, at
The
least from that
first one,
perspective.
yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have to have the boards available to come to the meeting.
Yeah,
otherwise it's
and that,
not
well,
helpful.
and that was one of my takeaways from Mark, is if I could start to, socialize, the date for that first one, so, I've appeased him at
Yeah,
this point.
and I'm
now,
showing
so-
up, does this match up with your school calendar? My Apple calendar says Yom Kippur is October 5th, which is a Wednesday, not that would be too
Correct.
soon after the 20th. So
Yeah.
that would be not a day.
Yeah, not the 5th. Of
Oh, I
October.
didn't know they did that, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Well, they
the
have to
calendar
do
for
that
it.
because they're not supposed to have one-time events.
And we did.
Students would miss, like tests that can't be made up, or
Yeah.
sports competitions.
It's helpful, very helpful.
Yeah, this year or last year, they had a problem because kindergarten, the first days of the kindergarten students were there was, I think, Rosh Hashanah or something, and they're like, well, that's not gonna work at all. They ended up, I think, having the kindergartners stay home a day or something.
All right, good. All right, well, that's good. Hopefully, I'll circle back with you, Sharon, after I talk
Yeah,
to
okay.
Sean and to Mark, and see if there's any other dates that we can propose. All right, good. Let's then, we have this one as on the communication policy, and part of me wants to be able to table this, because I know this is something that Jean was a little bit more hands-on than I was, but now that we have, I think one of the things what were we talking, Marion, about, like how email
And I
communication
can
to.
just tell you,
Yeah.
they've set up something with RAC, because now I'm getting in things like, that's, I don't know if it's sent to the RAC email, but I'm getting it, and it's possible the vice chair's getting it, where, it's like in a form.
Yeah.
You know how like they would have the select board emails in a form? Because I've gotten now, all of my requests for wanting time at the next RAC meetings. And if you go to the RAC subcommittee page, there's an email link to contact me, and it's getting sent somehow through a forwarding system to my personal email that I use for FinCom and I also use for RAC. So I would imagine they could set that system up, if they set it up for an ARPA subcommittee.
Yep.
And I don't know, did you all get the form from Sharon, from Laura?
Yeah.
Because I was on vacation, so I just emailed it to her the day I left, but we had to put contact information in email. So our email isn't there, but it's like click to contact this person, and then it gets forwarded to you, because that's how it is with RAC. So that may be what's coming for FinCom.
Yep.
So that may solve the issues,
Mhm.
That'd be good.
and then we would all see something. Like I'm getting, not just from people who wanna speak, people who have opinions, like please support RAC, please
Yep.
support ARPA money for this, please, or I wanna hear more about that, so if people feel that way with FinCom. So that's.
I fully support that, I think that's.
And I find it helpful. The only glitch is, you can't reply, if you click reply to whatever it is, it says no reply, so you have to kind of read the form and say, oh, the person left their email, and then I select that, and then
Gotcha.
I'll CC Fidel and Jackie, just so, because I know it's all gonna be on the record anyway. But that should seem to work. I just don't know, Joe, are you, when something comes to me, like as a RAC member, are you getting copies of the things that come in, or is it just coming to
I'm
me?
not sure I'm getting all of them. Like, did you get something today about the Y proposal?
I got
Thank
some,
you, like,
I got a thank you, but I also got something from, say, the Reading secretaries who want time at the next meeting.
yeah, see, it seems to be inconsistent, like
So
some of
maybe,
these
maybe
things
they
are-
can choose to say all of RAC or just the chair
Chair,
of
yeah.
RAC. But that could be the same with FinCom.
Yeah,
Someone
that's
could
fine,
say,
yeah, that's fine,
I wanted to come talk to FinCom, whatever, get
Yep.
me on the agenda.
yep. Any other questions or comments on that communication policy? Again, I think that's a fine way to be able to do it, I think that.
And
us
then
doing
they
it
have a
standard.
record of it too.
Yeah,
In case, for whatever reason, someone isn't available to look at their personal email. So Fidel, is that something the town, set up on purpose then? That, or is it just getting gradually rolled out as people get the form info in?
It is something that is up to the board. I mean, it's how the select board operates. Basically, there's an option to email the entire board, or there's an option to email each individual member, right? I mean,
And that must be how RAC is.
we found that that's the best way, right? To have each individual member be able to receive emails.
But they don't actually see your email address, they're just clicking on your name and.
Right, and it gets
Yeah,
forwarded.
and then I think, if, as long as you don't respond to them, they never actually see your actual email, I think.
Right, I did.
You can respond through somebody through the town if you wanted to.
Okay, like that one today, like Mariana 334, it just looks like it's just like a blind CC to me, I don't even see like the,
Yeah.
so maybe.
Like here,
It depends on how they
like
send
see,
it.
I have, maybe it's only this, like here's the thing, it says contact Mary Ann McLaughlin, contact Mark Doctor, contact Sean Ray. So there's all these
It
links to
depends on
contact.
what they link.
And maybe
click to.
somebody
They clicked on you because you're the
Contacted
chair.
all of us, and I'm trying to see if there's one, for the entire
I
rack.
got it on a bigger screen here if it's useful to you. A much bigger, like a
A
70
much
inch
bigger screen,
Thank you,
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's the same thing Marianne was just showing you.
So it doesn't show you anybody's
no, and
email
this takes
address,
me-
and
this
so
takes me to
behind
a
the
web
scenes,
form.
it knows your email address and it forwards
Yeah,
it to you.
although, while I'm talking about those things, so I just, I finally got around to filling out Laura's form of contact information, and I dropped it in town box on my way in the door this evening.
Yeah, they must have contacted you
But
individually.
it specifically said something about, like, do you want to get a public, like, do you want to list a public email address? So I actually did, I created a new Gmail account just for,
That's what I did, that's why I
Yeah.
have mariannmdowning.fincom@gmail, so that because you don't wanna have it
You don't wanna
mixed up,
commingle
and then
it,
if
yeah.
someone FOIAs it for whatever reason, you can say, well, it's only this, it's not all my personal stuff.
yeah. So if someone
that
does
was
get
smart.
my, yeah, so the form made it sound like I should be prepared for the possibility that my email address can get out, although it might, you're right, it might happen only because I respond.
I think that if you respond, that's how
Okay,
it
well, that's
definitely
fair,
gets out,
that's,
yeah.
that's actually reason enough to have a new address.
But you can respond through somebody from.
Our old, under the old FinCom page, our emails were there, if you clicked, not on that, but on the
Oh,
liaison
right.
page, right, all of our
Yep.
emails and our cell phones were there.
I mean, if you don't mind people having it, you know, you can respond.
Yeah,
What Jackie's showing is basically at the bottom of the screen.
right, that's what was, our info was there.
But at the bottom of the screen, we could create essentially just like RAC, right?
Right,
Where there's
that's,
a link, contact Marianne. We could create that for FinCom.
yeah, I think that seems
That
to
kind of
work
solves
fine
the
for
problem,
RAC. I haven't
yeah.
had any complaints from anyone on RAC. There's only a few of us that, the chair and the vice chair are kind of the main person that are communicating on behalf of RAC. We could say, like, I'll say, yes, I'll get you time, just like Ed would say.
Yep.
But if someone wants everyone to see something.
So right now, FinCom isn't set up in that same way, so we could do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it seems like.
Well, it needs to be updated.
Right now,
anyways
Eric
for-
Burkhardt is still
Yeah,
on there,
it needs to be
so-
updated for
Right.
Emily and Joe anyways.
Yeah, the new members aren't on there yet.
Perfect.
I'm gonna hop off, guys. guys.
Okay, enjoy your
Good night,
vacation.
Fidel.
Tom.
Yeah, bye.
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 So the next item,
Actually,
go ahead,
before we
Joe.
move on from
Yeah.
that, totally. So who, like in terms of town staff, do I talk to change what address is listed for me? Because like in the packet, we have my regular Gmail, which it's not really a huge deal if people have
Yeah.
that. It's my first name and my last name. It's not
Yeah.
rocket science. But since I do have the separate one,
It's
who do I
nice to-
talk to get this changed so
I
that?
think Jackie
it's like, here's
produces
the-
this, so, you could send it to
Yeah.
me and I could forward it on to, Jackie.
Okay,
Or,
I'm
you know,
gonna-
make sure
yeah.
that, cause she's got probably this on her computer, I don't have it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that way there she
The
can make.
building department too, she
Yeah.
maintains that
I was
database.
say, I
Okay,
sent my
Laura.
updated to Laura, I've got a public email, like a town stuff
Oh, yeah,
email last year.
that makes
Laura
sense, too.
updated it everywhere, so like
Nice.
if you're
Oh,
on
she
town
can do it
meeting
from,
too-
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if you're on.
Yeah.
Laura's
Maybe Laura
crowd,
Jack.
Because I switched what I was using from town meeting to
this
the
I thought was
FinCom one, and
produced by
I
Jackie.
now I'm getting the town meeting stuff there.
Yeah.
It's just easier.
Big call. Okay, I'll start with Laura then. Thank you.
And then she'll probably get it around to everybody, if that's
Yeah.
the way it works then.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cool.
Okay, now this trust fund.
Yeah, so I added these next two just as you know, kind of placeholders. I listened in to the last select board meeting. I guess that was last week.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the this affordable housing trust fund, and so Sharon, did you?
I wasn't at that meeting.
All right, so we may have to table this because I think I was
I thought
looking.
Fidel was gonna talk about it, 'cause I
Exactly,
wasn't
Fidel was
present.
gonna talk about it, so, and I can't give you a, you know, kind of a proper, because I kind of came in towards the last half of that discussion. But the part I came into is that they would have wanted to be able to liaison with FinCom. So that's, so I'm like, all right, so let's put this on the agenda.
Yeah.
So we may just table that one and bring it up on the next one when Fidel's gonna be
I
here. in
wasn't
person.
there for the conversation.
Yep.
So I
I only
apologize.
heard part of it too.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know that I'm
I heard
fully
the,
apprised
again,
of it.
I joined, you know, towards the tail end of it, so,
We certainly can put it on the next.
they put it on the next
I
one, that's
think
fine.
they were
Sorry.
talking about, all I got was they were gonna maybe create a board to oversee
Exactly.
the trust fund.
I think they wanted to change how it works a little bit. right?
Exactly.
It involved town meetings.
I've
to get
heard
them-
something
get
about it,
them
but I
on
definitely don't know all the details.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and one of the select
could
board
go to the
meetings gonna
Reading
work with
Post
Ivrea on it
articles.
anyway, so there's more to come from it. It was just more that we've probably already exhausted it, just letting folks know that there'll be something
There'll be
for us to be
something,
able
yeah.
to discuss at some point in time. We talked a little bit about Killam, and I just put this on there because it's actually KPB, the Killam Planning Board, that's what it was.
Oh,
Though-
Cape
Is it?
That's KPB.
PB.
Yes,
Oh,
Killam
had it.
Planning Board, that is the, so there's Sarah and Carla on from the school committee, and then the permanent building committee, and then now there's the, with Andre on this, someone from finance will be on it, but basically, so there, and I just kind of put this on the agenda because, and Fidel, you know, kind of alluded to it before, we'll need to, you know, kind of discuss this a little bit, ahead of, and this will be something that we'll have to talk
Ahead
about
of
for,
November.
ahead of November town meeting, as far as using free cash for the design. And
Yeah.
so there'll be a, you know, I'm expecting, or I'm going to request that, you know, that we get a full, kind of update as far as, because those are the questions will be asked at town meeting as far as, you know, why is it 2.2 million? You know, all the details around it, you know, the decision to use free cash and all that around that. So it's more just, you know, kind of FYI, that's gonna be, I think there will be, you know, kind of a number of things for this November town meeting, requests of free cash. So this gets back to even to, you know, to the discussion we were having earlier about, you know, the capital planning. I think there's going to be some, you know, some additional requests, for this November town meeting that we're, you know, that we'll have a lot of discussion towards, you know, around the financial forum and after that ahead of town meeting.
And then
Yeah, Joe.
the timing of that money, say it's 2.2, that would all have to be spent in this fiscal year, is that the way it lines up?
Yeah, I think because they're doing that kind of to the timeline of MSBA.
They just need to encumber it in this fiscal year, so that means sign a contract with whoever is going to do it for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you obviously you don't have that in your cash flow projections yet, obviously, right? I guess you could simulate
Oh, for the
it.
free cash?
Yeah.
When you were looking at it, it's there.
It's here, it's actually,
I
got-
put it there just to show you last time we were looking at the free cash that, Fidel had mentioned that he was thinking that 2.2 should come from free cash. And so last time we were looking at the free cash spreadsheet to help us with planning and what it would do to free cash to use that.
Yeah.
I put it in there, but, obviously it's not etched in stone, it was just
Placeholder.
because that was what the conversation was, are we going to? And I think that's where most people are at right now, but that doesn't mean it doesn't change. I mean, depending on what else comes up that we need to use free cash for, but obviously Killam is a big need and it's a big amount of money and it's capital and it's a one-time use. It's all the perfect things for free cash. So, and if we have a lot of free cash, might as well, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions or discussion on that piece around Killam? Cool. All right. So then, before we get to the meeting minutes, just last bit of housekeeping. So we do have a placeholder for a meeting on the 17th of August. We'll keep it on the calendar for now. I don't think we have any kind of pressing agenda items, so we may. We may push it, but I figure we'll just, it was worth a reminder to let everyone know that we do have a meeting on the 17th. All right, so then the last agenda item is to approve the meeting minutes from the 29th. Was there any questions or discussions on the meeting minutes? I reviewed them and it looked fine to me. I mean, I do think the one thing too, and I mentioned this this is actually in the meeting minutes, where we talked about current and expiring grants. That actually may be something that we kind of talk about a little bit with, that might be, kind of an agenda item that we put on the 17th, if we keep that meeting, just to, kind of, get an idea as far as, I know, we've been
Getting a lot of grants.
fairly aggressive with the with grants, and it's I know that's music to the select board's ears, and so yeah, I think it'll be the reason I kind of was looking at it was more just to have a vantage point of, are there things that we have kind of that are expiring that we're depending upon, and so that again leads back to kind of free cash, and I think this is maybe for that next discussion when we have it, is is there a philosophical, if we've how do we typically handle it from a budget perspective, if we have a grant or we don't have a grant, does it change the kind of the rest of the numbers as far as what we project?
Okay.
So that would be interesting for us to be able to discuss. Sorry.
Maybe it could be on the financial forum too, just as
Yep.
part of it.
Yeah, I think that, yeah,
Municipal
again, that might be something that comes out of municipal, Sean's discussion too, so, which would be interesting. All right, so sorry, I kind of get a little bit off topic as far as the meeting minutes. If there's no discussion, I'll take a motion for the meeting minutes from the 29th.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 29th, 2022.
Thanks, Emily.
Second?
Thanks, Mary Ann. Go to the vote. Jeffrey?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Joe Carnian?
yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Joe McDonough?
Yes,
Emily?
Yep.
And Ed, yes, that's 7-0. Any other questions or, yep,
Can I circle back real quick to when we were talking about, like education on municipal finance?
Yes.
I was trying to dig it out of my email while we were talking and I just found it. I don't know how many of you have seen, or know about the Massachusetts Association of Town Finance Committees produced a handbook last year.
Yeah, they sent it to us.
Okay, you got it?
Yeah.
It is on my screen right now.
Sweet.
Yeah, Karen was mentioning that to me.
Totally-
She goes, I'm halfway through, I'm reading, it's a
Totally
long
flipping.
manual.
It's light reading.
Just a little light
I
reading.
just didn't know,
It's really
I dug it up when I was.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't recall if we have a
Yes.
link to it on our
But it's
website,
also,
but it was
what's
sent to,
140?
it was sent to us.
Yes.
We can put a link to it on the website, but I know it was sent to us.
Yeah, I also,
It would be good to put a link, just so that
Yeah.
people can access it anytime they need.
I found it when I was debating applying, and I was like, oh, this is super helpful. I learned
Yeah.
so
It is
much.
very
When I
helpful.
had to find it on some other town's website before, like I
Yeah.
applied like Southborough or something,
Yeah.
but then we got the latest
It
one.
makes you realize that that's something good to have on the
Yeah.
website, right? Like,
Yep.
I always find that when
I
you
don't
look at
know-
other towns, you're like, oh, I hadn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether the Mass
helpful.
Municipals, because the MMA charges for it, I don't know if it's a copyright violation.
Yeah.
To provide the full copy, that's my IP attorney hat on.
Oh, maybe that
Yeah, no,
is.
I'm not-
Geez, I never thought of
Yeah, so I
that.
think yeah, no, I think,
I can't
I got this,
imagine.
I got this copy from a former finance committee member, Karen, actually.
Karen Herrick?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was telling me all about
Yeah,
this.
and,
I
no,
think
and
it's,
it
I
is
think the
really
town
awesome.
got access to all of us, so if someone has a PDF, we can have it, but I don't know about like links to the whole thing, just in terms of our
No, I
copyright
couldn't-
or our license.
I think I,
Is it the one from 2021?
Yes.
yep,
Okay, I can have the PDF of that, I can resend that to everybody.
Yeah,
But
Thanks,
it is copywritten, so we
Right.
weren't able to put it on the website.
thanks,
if it
Jackie.
was a state document, it would be one thing, cause the
Yeah.
state can't really have a copyright in something, but because
But it's-
MMA is a
or, yeah, Association of Town Finance Committees, but same difference.
Yep. That's great, thanks Emily
Would
for
the
bringing that up.
MMA have it on their website?
You, for a fee,
Oh, they
I think it's
charge
like
for- okay.
$35
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to Southborough having this old one, because the old one still has a copyright, I'm just telling you, that's where I found it on their website.
Great, any other questions or comments? All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Emily.
Second.
Thanks, Joe. Jeffrey?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Joe Carnahan?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Joe McDonough?
Yes.
Emily?
Yep.
And Ed, yes. 7-0, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Just a tick under an hour and a half, that's not bad, I'll take it.
Super.